This is Joe Rabil with Rabil Stock Research. So today's lesson again is going to be one of those where I talk about an indicator and how it applies to what's taking place right now in the S&P. It's actually a long-term indicator, but I'm going to show you how it can be used to help with shorter-term analysis. All right, we're going to go through that. I also want to talk about a specific area that is really bucking the trend relative to the market. Stocks look really attractive. I want to make sure I cover that. Then we'll go through the symbol requests that came through. All right, let's go ahead and get going. Okay, so we're looking at the S&P chart, actually the spider as a proxy for the S&P. And I want to look at this monthly chart. And I want to expand this out. And we're going to talk about a few things. So one of the things that I have noticed over the years is that, we can watch the DI lines, and that can tell us a lot about what to expect in the ADX line, which is the blue line. All right. They're what's causing this blue line to either go up or go down or whatever. All right. So we want to keep an eye out for what those are doing. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take this indicator and I want to edit it real briefly and just show you I can take this and I can, what's nice is I can just really quickly in ACP, I can just erase the blue line. All right. So we can be focused in on what's taking place between the DI lines. All right. So green represents the strength of the buyers. The red represents the strength of the sellers. All right. Now, when those lines are coming together, the blue line is going to start turning down. And when they start to expand, that blue line is going to start turning up. And it doesn't matter who's on top, all right? It's a non-directional indicator. So what we've noticed here and what we can see going back, look at what happened at the end of 2021. We saw the green line on the monthly chart make a lower high and a lower low, all right? At the same time, or around the same time, we made a higher low in red DI, and then made a higher high. All right, so right about the end of the year, right as this was turning back down, we knew that we were headed into a contraction phase for the market, okay? Now, if you notice what took place, we actually had the reverse of that take place here, where the contraction reversed to the bullish end of the spectrum, and then we knew that actually that contraction was suggesting that the down move was ending. Okay. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to get a reversal. We need strength out of the opposite DI to kind of take things over. That took place here where we got confirmation of a new trend. We made the higher high, crossed above 25. Now, if you notice, green DI has been in command, and then look at what happened. We just recently made a lower high, lower low, and now we're in the process of making a higher low and a higher high. All right. Now, let me actually confirm that that was a higher low. It was about a double bottom. That's close enough for me. And now we're making a higher high, which is actually more important because we have this contraction phase now in place. All right. Now, similar to what happened in 22. Now, I'm not trying to say we're going through a bear market. I'm just saying similar to what took place here after an extended run, we had this contraction phase start. All right. Now, if you notice, we're just pulling back to the 18-month, but we're starting a contraction phase according to the DI lines. All right. Now, I want to put the ADX line back up, and I want to show you something that I think is important. And that is when this line starts to turn to the downside on a monthly basis. So you see how we had this blue line moving up, and then the moment it turns down, right as it turns down, we shouldn't expect a really quick reversal from that, especially when we have confirmation from the DI lines. All right. Now, there are times when you could see this blue line coming down, but we don't have confirmation in the DI lines contracting. But when they do, and we get this to turn down, we shouldn't expect this to be a 1 month thing and then it turns back to the upside. So what this is telling me is the trend that moved up from here to here, right? This expansion phase is over, and now we're entering a contraction phase. So that likely means that this is going to take a lot more time than just, 1 month, 2 month type of thing. I mean, this is likely going to take more time. I would say, it could be anywhere from 3 to 6 months or whatever to play out. So we need to be aware of that. And I think that should create a significant amount of patience in our minds. We don't need to step in and feel like we're going to miss something, this thing turning around on a dime and taking off like a rocket. All right. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Now, it's not the end all be all. Obviously, it can be wrong. It's not like, it's 100% indicator, but know that in the back of your mind. And then as we start to analyze what's taking place on the shorter term timeframes, I think we can have a better feel for how to handle it. So the way I would tell you is that if we start to get a rally taking place that goes a little bit deeper into, say, 5,800 for the S&P, which is where the resistance is, don't assume that that's the start of some big reversal. We need proof. All right. This market now, based on what's taking place here, is guilty until it's proven innocent. All right. As opposed to we're expecting it to go to a new high and break out. We should be expecting more consolidation, maybe more downside testing, certainly based on the volume that came out, that there's still some risk in this in the near term. And that is confirmed by what we're seeing on this, the DI lines on the monthly. If you're enjoying the content, hit that like button and also subscribe. So my services can be found at rabilstockresearch.com. I'm on this page right now. You can see at the top, I've got my advanced trend and momentum courses. There's 3 different courses now. I've individually priced them, or you can buy them as a bundle, and they are lifetime access now. So I changed that. It's not year to year. Okay. And then we have the individual package. I have about 2 to 3 reports each week, plus a special video, weekly video for that package that covers a lot of details into what I'm seeing for the week. So if you have an interest, go ahead and take a look. Also, the book is on the book tab. You can go if this is a good place to start if you're new to my methodology. My comments are for educational purposes only. Please do your own due diligence before making any investments. All right, so I want to look at the QQQ because it's very similar, the pattern overall, to the S&P. And there's a reason for that. I mean, the big stocks in the QQQ are the biggest names that are in the S&P as well. Obviously, that Mag 7, we need to keep a close eye on what they're doing. And the best way to do that is kind of watch this QQQ, I think. And it's so some of the things that I think stand out to me. Number one, you can see the volume pattern on the weekly. You see these 3 weeks. So that's a little different to me. If we just had volume on the final, like down here on this final bar at the bottom, and volume spiked after declining on lower volume, and then that to me would be a bullish thing. But the fact is that there was a really strong, violent selling that continued, on the way down. All right. Now, when we see that kind of strength, it's almost always going to have a high correlation to the DI. And in this case, it would be red DI. So let me expand this on the daily chart. So when we get this type of strength to the downside, we know we've got strong selling characteristics associated with that decline. All right. Now we're in this position where we got a little stretched away from the 18, and it's very possible, as I mentioned with the S&P, that we could face some sort of a rally here in the short term, potentially. However, the reading in the ADX being up here in the 40s suggests to me that there's probably more downside testing that's got to take place. So maybe we rally up into resistance zone up here, and then and work our way back down. And at a minimum, I think we need to test this again, somewhere at some point, which actually, based on the fact that the Fed is coming out today and Powell is going to be speaking, we're going to get a lot of volatility. It's very possible that this rally ends more abruptly, depending on what he says and what they're thinking. But it's also possible that it could get a better rally based on that. So we need to be on our toes right now. But I think keeping in mind that we're entering into this contraction phase on the monthly, where the ADX line is turning down for the first time in a little bit on the monthly chart, just suggests to me that we can be a little bit more patient. Unless you want to be a trader, you're going to go down to an hourly chart and try and play for short-term moves into resistance. I mean, I don't have a problem with that if you have that skill set, but if you don't, I think I would be a lot more patient with what we're seeing here. I think it's going to take a lot more time. Now, I didn't say this with the S&P in the lesson, but my feeling is that this is going to turn into a choppy environment. Like we're gonna chop around, as opposed to, I don't think this is the start of a big, massive decline to the downside. I mean, it's possible, but the sentiment has turned so bearish so quickly. I'm leaning towards this being more of a shorter term decline that turns into sort of a sideways pattern now that we've seen the contraction phase kick in. All right, let's look at the IWM. And this is another reason why it's hard to be overly bullish right now. When we look at this pattern and what's taken place, a lot of damage has been done to the chart. We've broken the 18-month line on this weekly chart. I've overlaid this green line as the 18-month, which is a 72-week, which is basically the same thing. And the other thing that really bugs me about what's taking place here is the fact that the RS line continues to make lower highs and lower lows, and the moving average, the 30-period moving average of the relative strength continues to decline. We're going to need that to shift before the environment really improves, in my opinion. All right, so I want to keep that in mind and continue to watch that on a regular basis. The other thing that bugs me about this IWM is that we showed enough strength to the downside on this last leg to get the ADX going based on the sellers. All right, see that red DI is causing that ADX line to cross 25. So that correlates highly with volume. But the fact that we're, breaking the 18-month line and showing this pattern of trend line break, 18-week rolling over below the 40-week, which is the 200-day, is definitely a concern. All right, now I do want to show you something that is really intriguing me. Now, I was going to go through all the commodities, but I thought I would just focus in on one area in the commodities, which is the natural gas. All right, we've got a really good move in gold. We've had a very nice move in silver. Same thing with copper. Energy, in terms of looking at the oil chart, doesn't look all that great. But if you look at gas, this has really shown a lot of strength here recently. And look at what's taken place in this UNG. We had a low ADX condition for an extended period of time, about a year, a little over a year. Now, it was a volatile type of pattern, right? I mean, you see how it wasn't a period where all three lines were below 25, which I think are the most powerful type of low ADX conditions. But throughout this whole period, the blue line has been below. That means there's been no real it's been a power struggle between the sellers and the buyers throughout this period. But now we've had enough strength to the upside to cause the ADX line to cross above 25 and clearly making higher highs and higher lows is the green DI. So green and the buyers are in an expansion phase right now. Now, I will say it's short-term overbought. All right, so it would be ideal if we got some kind of a consolidation or pullback in the form of some kind of an opposing trend pattern to develop on the daily chart. I would love to see that if it can play out where the MACD comes down a little bit closer to zero. But I did want to point out there's about 5 or 6 stocks that have a very, very similar pattern. I just want to run through them very quickly. Once you see the one pattern, you can see that almost all of them look similar to this. Now, let's start with the monthly. This is EQT. Look at this setup. Look at the way this is played out. Look at how the MACD came down, made a turn right at the zero line reversal with a low ADX condition in place. And we've shown a lot of strength here and emerged out of the most recent resistance, and now we're up at that prior area looking like we're attempting to break out. But I love the look of the MACD on the monthly chart. Now look at the momentum on this time frame. We've got really good confirmation of momentum and we just showed respect for the 18-week. All of those are good signs. Look at the relative strength line. So this is the ratio of the EQT to the SPY, and look at how this has been climbing. So while the market has been kind of going through a struggle period here, we're seeing this show signs of improvement. We also have an RSI buy signal where the The RSI 20 is holding above the 50 level, while the RSI 5 pivoted below 50. So it's usually a good sign. Now, if we start to look at the other stocks, look at how similar this EXE is. Similar pattern, another RSI buy. Look at the relative strength. Look at the strength in the ADX pattern, right? The MACD didn't come quite down to the zero line, but overall pattern, very, very similar. Look at AR, same sort of thing, a little bit different when you look at it over the last few years, but the same type of pattern. We got this reversal of the zero line on the monthly, and this was a double bottom. A lot of strength, again, good strength taking place in the ADX. We've got relative strength showing signs of improvement, and again, another RSI buy. Look at RRC, same thing, RSI buy, RS showing strength. Nice pattern on the monthly. This was more of like a reverse divergence pattern, didn't quite make it all the way down to the zero line, but it has a little bit more strength in the ADX on the monthly chart. And then we've got, again, now this is a little bit earlier, so we don't have as much strength in the ADX, but it's just starting to emerge out of this pattern, really attractive. Look at CTRA. Now, this hasn't broken out yet. I think if this gets through 30, we're looking at something really meaningful, but look at the monthly chart. Look at the way the MACD is turning and crossing over. Got the relative strength, got the RSI buy. All right, I wanted to make sure I covered that. Okay, let's go to this, a few of the symbol requests that came through. So ADMA, a lot of strength. Look at this monthly chart. Look at the power of this move. Now, I do like to point this out. So we get this incredibly strong move that gets the ADX line up around 70, right? I mean, that's super, super overdone. This is an oscillator. Okay, it goes to 100 theoretically, but it never reaches that level. Normally, when you get near 70, we should it's in a very, very powerful trend, but we should assume that it's sort of a mature trend. Now, the other thing that I would say is that when we got up to this peak, we showed signs of some selling pressure with this reversal up here. So I think the likelihood is, just based on the way this played out, that this is going to take a little bit more time. And now it might play out and work its way back up to the highs. Okay, but I would view that more as a trading play. We do got a zero line reversal here. We do have no sign of selling strength, but I would really like this a little better if we got a pullback and did something like this, just to give it a little bit more time and consolidate a little bit more after this kind of reversal and decline. It seems like there was some selling pressure up there, but the long-term pattern on this looks really good. I would like to see it work sideways a little bit longer. Okay, BILI, looking at this on the weekly and the daily. Now, I'll just mention this on the monthly. This is a pretty big reversal developing as we held the 18-month line. That's a good sign. Now, but before the bigger picture pattern really kicks in, it probably is going to take a little bit of time, but I do like the look of this overall setup. Now, the way the daily is developing, let's just zero in on this for a second. We've got a little bit of a reverse divergence signal developing. All right. So I would actually like to see this come back up through this peak here around 22.5. Green DI is still in command. We had a good volume pattern. We get a lot of gaps, right, on these foreign stocks. So we got to be prepared for that. And I think that it has an influence on the ADX pattern. So you got to be careful with how much you want that to influence you. But I think Green DI has given us the right reading here. The buyers are in command. I just think we need to get back above that 22.5 area, I think, to really get things going. Now, let's look at CSCO. I mean, look at what's going on this longer term chart. We had a low ADX pattern, and this made a really strong move and sort of emerged. But now we got up against this prior high, and we're showing a little bit of a reversal pattern showing up here in the candlesticks. And the likelihood is that maybe this takes a little bit more time to consolidate, especially when I look at what's taking place on the weekly chart. It looks like we're trying to break the 18-week. Now, the good news is this is still making a higher low. All right. Now, right now, we haven't made a lower low in the MACD, but I would say we're not far away, especially depending on how things close out this week. We could be set up for a reverse divergence. Now, once that takes place, as long as that 18-week continues to rise, we could look for an opposing trend signal on this time frame. Now, the reason why I'm being patient here is that you can see on the the daily chart, the MACD has crossed down and the signal line have both crossed down below the zero line. That means we shouldn't be looking for some kind of a quick up move. I think you should expect more of a complex corrective pattern on the daily chart. So be patient there. I think is the best word to be looking for. Now, I did get a request on a negative here in terms of like on the short sale. Now, I think this had pretty good volume to the downside. I mean, you can see that 2 weeks here were definitely some selling, but look at the volume that came back to it coming back to the upside. All right. Now, one of the things that I've noticed in a market that's still basically a bull market at this point, that you got to be careful when you have a rising 18-month and the stock seems to be showing respect for that line. Unless you want to be playing this in a very short-term, nimble way, right? I mean, if you want to play this off the daily chart and use the hourly chart to get you in and play it for a quick move back down to test these lows, then I don't have a problem with that. But if you're looking for the start of some kind of a big move to the downside, I think we've got a strong ADX here. I don't see the selling pressure at this point. Yeah, I see the volume pattern. But again, what I'm telling you is we had the last big volume bar to the downside could be considered more climatic and then buying pressure coming back to the upside. So I think we're going to need to be nimble if we're going to play this to the short side. Thanks for watching today. So if you have any stock requests, you can send it to stocktalk@stockcharts.com or just put it in the comment area below. Also, if you want to learn some more about some of these techniques with MACD and ADX in multiple timeframes, you can go to my YouTube channel called Invest Like a Pro. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.